Bitcoin keeps pushing up to the 109,000, 110,000 mark, threatening to push all the way through all-time highs. But will it do it this time? Well, let's take a look and see. We will also take a look at the markets affecting crypto, gold, and even silver, as it gives us some good insights into money flows. We'll also take a look at altcoin prices. And perhaps that will give us a good chance to talk more about altcoin behavior. It can often seem like there isn't a lot going on there. And that isn't wrong, but at the same time, it is missing the bigger picture with altcoins. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realized there is potential here for life-changing gains over a greater period, like 4 to 8 years, and you're looking for a discussion on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place. Now, I was once new to the crypto space 8 years ago, and I didn't know at that time that you grow a huge YouTube channel by talking about things that were already high and being optimistic for why they'd go higher. And so being new to crypto investing myself, I didn't realize for that first year, at least, that incentives were all wrong for the crypto YouTube channels I was watching. I was hungry for analysis on cryptos that were underpriced and undervalued. And I didn't find that. I found a lot of crypto YouTubers talking about things that had gone up massively, not things that had gone down massively and might be underpriced. So in 2020, I created that. And we discussed crypto as an investment and discussed the most important things like the 4-year investment cycle, specific projects and pros and cons of those projects, especially when their prices are cheap, which means almost nobody else is covering them because YouTube punishes you when you cover things nobody is searching for. And as much as you think everyone would be searching for undervalued projects, the truth is most are searching for whatever projects have just gone up a whole bunch. I also give you my assessment of risks on those projects. Guess is the upside if it comes together well. So if you're looking for deeper discussions than that, join our private Patreon group. And there it allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. In the private Discord is where the best discussion, best info is. And there are also other benefits too, but you will have to join us to find out. Do know I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul, who is joining us from DevvExchange, invests in many different markets. None of this to be taken as financial advice. So make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show and help me welcome Paul from DevvExchange.
Yeah, I've just had a slight problem with my audio. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, coming through good.
Oh, hang on. This
Can
is
you
definitely
hear me
live.
okay?
It's all had to happen just before I went on. So I can now not hear you for some reason. Let me just check my settings. Yeah, it says that they're set right. Okay, hold on. Yeah, okay. You can obviously hear me, but I can't hear you, so that is a bit of a problem. Hi everybody. Let me see what I can do. Just give me a second. Give me a second here.
Sure. Well, that's the beauty of going live, is because, well, every once in a while things go haywire. And Paul and I were just talking before the show and everything was working fine. So looks like it just started off having trouble. Technology these days, it'll often do it. Chris in the house. Okay. Chris says good morning.
Okay,
and happy
so that's
Wednesday.
not going to work. This should now work.
Chris says good to see you, Jay and Paul.
Sound settings.
Justin here. Rivian. Good morning, gents. Love the analysis as always. All right. AURK and MCADE, please.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. For some reason, I can't hear you. You're not coming through my system, which is really odd. So I'm going to have to just mess around until I get this working. So apologies.
Yeah, maybe it's defaulting to a different sound.
This is really, really odd.
Well, yeah, Paul
just
might
keep
need
talking,
a
and I'll. So weird. So weird.
All right. Since you can't hear me, I'm going to try typing a message to him.
Okay.
Let's see if that helps. All right. So we got Bitcoin pushing up to 110,000. I'm curious to see Paul's take on those charts. Was having a discussion with one of the gold members in the Patreon that gives you access to the gold member chat in the Discord. And one of the things I've often told my audience, especially the private audience, is that the bear market lasts 4 months longer than you can't stand it. So like if you think you can't stand it, no, there's a point where you really can't stand it anymore. Your patience is completely like at its end, and often it kicks you about 4 more times than that. And so that's where that comes from, is like 4 months longer than you really can't stand it. And there's like, you hate it, you're mad at it, but there's the point where you really can't stand it, and it often lasts longer than that. And what's funny is why so many people do bad in crypto is they just can't take the timing. They start to build expectations that things don't happen by X date, I'm out. And they literally just don't wait it out. And so this is
back in.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. It's really strange. All the settings were right. It said I was set up and it just disconnected, but it was also not showing that it wasn't connected, which is so weird. Anyway, I'm back in. Sorry about that. You know, technology, don't you love it? Great when it works and terrible when it doesn't. So apologies. Great to be here this week. So much going on. Everything's looking really interesting. We got commodities moving, we got equities moving, we got Bitcoin near high, we've got ETH is on the move. We've been looking at that as well. There's so much that's suddenly moving. Platinum, we've been talking about that, and palladium, why that's important. We got the Asian stock market. So maybe I should just jump into the markets and just look at the charts, right, before everything explodes. Maybe it's just like there's just too much going on, and you know, the markets just the technology just can't take all this excitement. But I can also understand that people are probably a little bit like sort of down in the dumps a bit with the way altcoins have been trading. But you know, remember when we get to the Bitcoin chart, the trend was supposed to be over, right? Remember, it was all over, supposed to be over many times, and it's still pressing higher. So it tells you something about where we are in this market. But Dow Jones recovering from the tariff situation, edging up towards all-time highs. S&P is much more bullish. It's almost there. It's probably going to hit it, come off, and then play around and then go through. Russell 2000, small cap equities, it's not a bearish chart. Although, you know, I got too excited about breakout here. Yes, it did correct, but we're still in an upward trend. That hasn't changed. Reminds me a lot of altcoins, really. The altcoin setups are a bit like this, where they haven't moved yet, but they're just getting ready to move, and it just takes patience. And it is frustrating. I completely understand that. But the macro underlying market is still very positive. And so we look at, I want to look at the Hong Kong stock market. That's heading back to a really important resistance point. That trend is still up. China, not so bullish, but still bullish, consolidating. That's getting ready to move as well. Gold in a consolidation, we said for a couple of weeks. That's been, since it hit that high for me, that was an important pause point. But the dollar is still going down. And silver was my big breakout trade. Remember I said last week that it would just move, and it has done. It's just broken aggressively higher, and it's still going. And I think it's going to try and head towards this $50 area. But this is all just risk on. What's nice about this is we've got platinum, which has woken up. That was doing nothing, and it's suddenly gone bang. And palladium, the same. It's still in a range. That hasn't really moved much. It's probably not on people's radars, but that's getting ready to move. Why that's important is because we're getting synchronization of the bullishness in commodities, which is all part and parcel of the dollar going down. It's all part and parcel of this risk on phase. So what we mean by this risk on phase is that the high we've seen in the Dow and the S&P will be breached this year, and the market will go much, much higher. No one's really expecting that. And of course, you got the LA riots that Jay and I were talking about offline. It's all a sideshow. It's like just a distraction, another one that you'll forget about. Like you'll forget about the tariffs in a few months and everything and anything else, like the spat between Elon Musk and Trump, which is kind of really embarrassing. But you know, the markets aren't. It's not about the markets. That's more theatre. So overall, all risk on seems to be moving in the right direction. Today, we have got CPI, which is an important number. And judging by the way the markets have been trading and setting themselves up, it does look like we're going to get a weaker number. Now, I don't know what the number is going to be. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to be weaker, but I just think it will be. If it is a stronger number and the dollar goes up, I think it will be a short-term move, like a knee-jerk reaction before the dollar goes back down again. There's a lot of important currencies against the US dollar that are strengthening, i.e. dollar weakness. Whether that's what the US wants or not, it's happening. But as we've mentioned before, this is a big risk-on play for the world. So whilst this is moving in this direction, we'd expect it to be a support to risk-on trades, Bitcoin, equities, commodities, and such like. And we're seeing it synchronize. And for this, what was a fragmented move in the dollar and what was a fragmented move in precious metals and base metals is actually strengthening out into lots of different markets, which increases its importance. So I think the underlying structure of the market is looking good, looking interesting. I mean, it's all about probability because things can change. And so there's no guarantee is what I'm trying to say. And I think you guys understand that. But for the last few months, things have got stronger rather than weaker. And especially with, as I say, Bitcoin near a high and markets recovering close to previous all-time highs in equities, that's all a really good sign.
So it's interesting. You said things are aligning. Talk more about the alignment. Like you think they're aligning towards a push to the higher side?
Yeah, part of that is commodity prices moving higher, and commodity prices have been slightly. I mean, we've talked about different elements of the commodity market. Like I've talked about copper. Copper hit a high and then came off on the tariffs and then it's rebounded again. But it's broadly in a big range. It hasn't broken out. So if we look at the chart of gold, for example, gold has gone. Where's gold? Come on. This is what happens when you haven't had much sleep. Let's find it. It's down on this side. And oh no, it's not. Gold has broken out and is trending very aggressively, whereas silver is not. It's been in a range. It's been underperforming. There we are. So gold did this for a long time, for many years. So from 20 to like 23, it did basically nothing and then broke out, and now it's just gone crazy. Silver has sort of done the same, but begrudgingly moved higher. But its relative high is like $50 was the relative high all the way back here in 2011. And so if silver was going to represent what gold's done, it should be, up here somewhere, maybe it's $70 or $80. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go there. I'm just saying, relatively speaking, ballpark, it's underperformed. But now it's catching up pretty fast. It's suddenly moving. And then platinum, which was doing absolutely nothing, is now moving higher. So what is this telling us? This is telling us that there's a broadening out of buying of commodities, which means possibly two things. It means people think the dollar's going to go down, so they're moving into hard assets. And it could also mean that demand is going up. The economy is much better than is being expected, or because of the tariff shock, everyone's going recession, if you remember that. But that's not likely. I said that wasn't likely, and I said I didn't think that would happen. I said the stock markets and the macro situation are far more positive than was being presented in the media, and it would recover quicker. And what we're seeing now is that was used as an opportunity to buy, and it's an opportunity to buy real assets, which is kind of what we're seeing here. Now, if you consider Bitcoin as a real asset, inverted commas, and I guess a lot of people watching this would consider it a real asset. A real asset could be anything that's outside of dollars, and it could be anything that is going to do well when people want to take risk. So the broadening out of the fact that, you know, why would we be interested in platinum and silver? Probably you wouldn't on a crypto channel, but you would be if it's telling you that there's much more risk coming into the system, and maybe we're going to get a weaker number on CPI today, and the potential for rates to go down. If they do go down, or, you know, whether they go down or not is another matter, but whether the market expects rates to go down would be extremely interesting for another phase that would really be bringing in you know, a lot more alcohol to the party, shall we say, to push us into this final phase. So the fact that these other things are moving, I think, is a very important synchronization of risk on. We're seeing equity markets, commodities, and the dollar going down, and cryptocurrencies going up, and that's broadening out as well. All these things are pointing in the same direction.
Yes. So more alcohol coming to the party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So spiking the punch bowl is kind of the analogy that's used with the central bank and what they tend to do. And they tend to react at the wrong time to the wrong thing. You can pretty much guarantee that. We talked again previously about Trump and Jerome Powell and the very public spat. Trump wants rates down because it's just, that's even more alcohol, and probably well, yeah, let's not, I better not stretch the analogies any further, because you know, don't want to, yeah, anyway. So yeah, more alcohol basically he wants at the party, because he's all about more. That's his, you know, that's the way he works. He's cutting taxes for the rich. He's really making it, you know, a very positive risk on market, which is fantastic. But there's always a price to pay. There's always a hangover, and that hangover will come much later. But for now, we can enjoy the move up.
Yeah, so more alcohol is coming to the party. And we see a little bit of that in the gold and silver prices coming in, that people are, well, number one, going, well, is that because people are going to risk on assets, or is it because people just aren't trusting the monetary system?
So are they moving to risk on assets? Sorry, I just want to make sure I get your question.
So the gold and silver moving up, because even silver breaking higher means people are moving money out of fiat into gold and silver.
Yeah.
But they seem like that's a move away from fiat, but not necessarily, because our gold and silver, they're not considered risk on assets, are they?
Yeah, they would be. Okay. I mean, silver's more industrial than gold. Gold is more kind of monetary, so people see gold as money and silver as industrial. You know, silver, some people don't know that it's the most conductive metal. So if you could make all your wires out of silver, it has the least resistance and the best conductivity. But of course, it's expensive to do that. So the next best is copper. That's why copper goes up when there's a lot of demand, a lot of global demand. What if you look at a new house and how much copper wiring it needs? If you look at an electric car and how much copper wiring it needs, it can give you an indication of how well the economy is doing. But yeah, if you could use silver would be even better. But silver's still used in industrial purposes. It's got an antiseptic quality as well. So there's a lot of things it can be used for. But of course, that's part of it. So it's part of it's demand driven, and the other part of it is because people are moving away from fiat. We are definitely seeing that. What we're saying is that there are people who are forward looking and thinking they don't like the way the government is running the economy. Maybe rates are too low. Maybe inflation is too high, and all those are good reasons to invest in the stock market. and a good reason, because that's a hedge against inflation. It's a good reason to invest in Bitcoin. It's a good reason to invest in precious metals, because it's a kind of way of saying we don't think the government is actually going to manage the economy properly, Trump. And I'm supportive of Trump against Kamala Harris, so don't get me wrong. It's just that you don't. I just thought it was ridiculous what the Democrats have done, and I don't really want to get into politics, but I'm not knocking Trump for a lot of things he's done, but I can also see that not 100% of the things he's going to do will be the right things. We can trust Trump to be Trump, and you know what he's going to do. He's going to do everything that's good for business, everything that's good for property, everything that's good for getting the stock market high and telling everybody how great he is, which will work for a while and then it will stop. So if people are starting to worry about that, and you're also seeing some very aggressive moves with the tariffs, which are a bit, kind of off. And then the politics with Elon Musk is not great. I know it's a bit of a theater, but it's enough to make you wonder about what's around the corner. So, even if you move a little bit into precious metals as well as crypto, it's not such a bad idea, really. So I'm not recommending that anybody does that. I'm just saying this is the thought process behind why these things are moving up. And on top of it, you can see that the dollar is going down.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast talking about institutional investors, that many that have started having exposure to crypto at first started with 1% to 2% of their portfolio. Many of them are moving like their Bitcoin percentage to 2 to 5%. And we're seeing that reflected in the demand. And part of the reason the price keeps pushing where it is, despite like riots happening in LA, is just the number of sellers is less than the number of buyers for Bitcoin at this price. And it's pushing this higher.
Yeah, the riots in LA is nothing. It's not important at all. It's just a sideshow. I mean, America's a huge economy. It's a huge country. This is something that will rise up and then come back down again. And it's not going to affect business. So I mean, look, you could argue that some people might move into cryptocurrencies, into Bitcoin, because it's the one that they know the most. And during the riots, they're worried about their assets. So, in anarchy, they will turn to things that they think they feel are safe. And maybe they feel that Bitcoin is safe. Maybe they feel that precious metals are safe. Buying precious metals and having, trying to transport them in real kind of blocks of gold and silver is probably not the best thing to do in a riot. But, so you could argue that there are some, but that's not enough to move the market. This is a global thing, and it's been building up for a very long time. Just we're now coming to a phase where it's becoming sort of abundantly obvious to even people who aren't really looking at it that these markets are moving. But still, there's not many headlines. Even though Bitcoin is near an all-time high, it's amazing how sentiment is still quite negative, and there's not a lot in the press. So I think that's a good sign for it going up much more. It's only people like the people who watch this channel who've got a handle on it that really are watching it closely enough to know that it is near a high. I don't see it in the mainstream press. Financial press maybe, but not the mainstream press. And it's when it gets into that won't be near the end, but it's when it gets a lot of attention there that we'll start to see the beginning of the end.
Yeah, let's take a look at some crypto prices. Let's look at Bitcoin versus ETH, and then we'll dig into some altcoins.
Yeah, so Bitcoin, I think maybe last week I was talking about a correction, perhaps consolidation, and it did a little bit of that, but now it's just popped back up again. We've got one red bar and then one green bar, another green bar. It's like really holding strong, and I like the way it's doing it near the high. So again, this looks ready to go. I like to see things happening. Well, I don't like to see things happening. I notice that things do happen around announcements of like things like non-farms. Non-farms last week wasn't really much of a muchness, but we still got CPI. So I'm wondering if somebody knows something on CPI, and that's why this buying has been so aggressive. So we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me if by next week we're back, we're through this and trading at 1,012 to 15, something like that. I mean, I'm not saying buy it. I'm just saying that that's where I think it might be. With regard to ETH, this little consolidation here has been on my mind for a long time, and it's taken a few weeks before it's actually broken out. But the direction is, the pressure has been to the upside, and it looks finally like it's going. And this, first of all, there was this resistance here, which it's taken out. The next resistance is just on it here, and it's very close to the 200-day moving average, which is actually just going through it now, which is what I'd expect. So this looks like a proper breakout. So a move towards 3,000, maybe 3.3, and then we can start talking about these highs here. So ETH is moving in a nice direction. I think this is working very well. If we look at the, where is it? The spreads, Ethereum, Bitcoin, it had this jump here, and actually the spread is looking like a really nice little continuation pattern. So it wouldn't surprise me if ETH really does do a nice catch-up move, and that might be a good sign for altcoins in general. Why has ETH underperformed? You can always find a fundamental argument, but what's interesting is when it catches up, everybody says, "Oh, wasn't it really undervalued?" So technically, it looks like it's turning. It looks like it's got more to go. So perhaps we're going to see a bit more action there, in the same way that, as I was saying, between gold and silver, very, very similar situation. Gold has been like Bitcoin, leading the way. Silver's been the poor relation, not really moving. And then all of a sudden, markets come in and go, "Oh, look how cheap silver is." And it's just jumped, and the same with platinum. So we'll probably see it spreading out into more and more altcoins along the way.
You might almost say that like Bitcoin is more of a store of value, and Ethereum is more industrial, right? Because it does get used more as like liquid money in the crypto space. And anyway, transferred, spent on gas fees, just used more. Also held as store of value, like silver sometimes is. So the comparison is pretty good. There's a lot of other altcoins. What is interesting is generally before the altcoins run, Bitcoin hits really high prices. Then some momentum run rolls into ETH, and then it starts to spread through the rest of the crypto markets into altcoins. Now, there is a growing consensus that, there's so many altcoins out there. There's too many altcoins. Altcoins aren't going to run this time. And that's just not the case. They said that in 2020 for the 2021 bull run, that like, there's so many altcoins out there. Altcoins aren't going to meaningfully run. And they are right that there's so many altcoins out there. There's so much crap because any person with any kind of programming skills, in fact, today you can just ask AI to help you create an altcoin. So yeah, it creates an altcoin. There's a lot of money not going to roll into those altcoins that have no substance to them. But I do find what happens is as people start paying a lot of attention to crypto space and they look deeper into what Bitcoin is, and Bitcoin's price hitting a certain height creates that awareness, they say, wow, what is this really? And so they start looking at the underlying technology, and they realize that blockchain combined with cryptographic encryption allows the internet to do things it could not do before. And so this area of decentralized finance is going to be a really big area. There's some things that blockchain combined with cryptographic encryption really unlock for video games. So blockchain gaming is another narrative that I think will have a huge boom. There's some coordination with AI, and that crypto and AI makes some sense. So usually AI has a run, as well as like other narratives like digital collectibles. There's digital collectibles finally make sense because cryptographic encryption combined with blockchain gives you a verifiable collectible, so that it is what it's supposed to be. So anyway, let's take a look at QNT. Chris asked us to look at QNT.
Yeah, and thanks, Chris, for giving me the CPI number. For some strange reason, I thought it was going to come out whilst we were on the show, but that's because I was thinking about the FOMC meeting. So yes, it's coming weaker than expected. Markets haven't really reacted that much, which again is an interesting thing, because that happens where the market just hovers around, does nothing. And then I bet you tomorrow, when there's a big move, the papers will be saying it was on a weaker CPI number, because they tend to make the tail fit on the donkey after the event, or make the news fit what the market's done. And so today you couldn't really say much has happened, but there's still time for it to move. And so on the announcements, it didn't do a lot, but by the end of the day, it could still have moved or into tomorrow. But yeah, let's look at QNT, which I seem to remember is one that we looked at before, didn't we? We were discussing this. Was it last week or was it the week before? I'm pretty sure we have had this on the agenda.
Yeah, we have in the last few weeks, but I don't remember specifically which. I think it's 2 times ago.
Okay. So yeah, not a lot has really changed, other than, let's just check. This is it's weekly chart. Looks like it's up to date. It's trending up, but it's within the context of this range and heading towards the top of the range, which is great. But we need to see more price action above these resistance points in order for us to be talking, of course, about a move up here. So it's going the right way. I think it makes sense to be short-term bullish, and hopefully that's what I was talking about when we looked at it last time. The big picture, it is hitting some serious levels now that I want to see how it's going to react to. First of all, this consolidation here had a lot of selling in it. And so getting past there is important. It's come back. So, it's meeting some resistance, but I think the big levels are around 145 and this one up here at 172. So for the moment, I think I would say it's a short-term buy, but long-term, I'd have to see how it trades around these levels. And it may be that other markets are looking more interesting, something that's in a clearer space, but that doesn't preclude it going up. And so I'd say it's kind of 60-40 probability that it's going to go higher. Whether that's enough for this, if there's really nothing else going on, then one could argue this would be the one to buy. But as you know, there's plenty going on, so you may find a cleaner chart. So so in summary, I'd say it's a short-term buy. Longer for me, it's a short-term buy, but a longer-term wait, or let's see what it does, and before taking a longer-term position or having an expectation it's going to go higher. And obviously, it's got to be put in the context of everything else that we're looking at.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll share this tab. So QNT is related to a lot of what's happening with XRP and integrations of the rails for the financial system changing. So one of the Rainmaker family, who has 30 plus years experience in payments, says QNT is going to be a really big deal. He's probably right on that. So it's outside the spectrum of what I bought a lot in. It's in these higher cap coins, but not extremely high cap. It's 1.4 billion right now market cap, with a lot of its tokens already in circulation. And if he's right on it, number one, it would go above previous highs, but probably there is a chance that as people realize the new financial rails are going to be XRP and some of the ISO coins, that XRP could go to numbers that are somewhat unfathomable, that perhaps the market cap could even go higher than Bitcoin's market cap. It did do that in 2017. It could do that again. And then in that scenario, companies or projects like Quant, their market cap for their token could go unrealistically high to maybe even 100x from here. Now, a lot of what I look at, I look for projects that can do 100x. And so I just have a hard time evaluating, is Quant going to do that? Is XRP really going to do that in this environment? It's hard to gauge the probability because that kind of shift we haven't seen happen before. And so though I do think there's a good probability of it, just have a hard time figuring out what that probability percentage might be. Is it a 50% probability? Is it 70% probability? Because we haven't seen that kind of pattern happen yet. And then we saw a little bit of in 2017 with XRP exceeding Bitcoin's market cap. So Quant, I do like it for the long term, and I like what our one of our Rainmaker family members says about it. He would know financial rail systems. He does like hours and hours of research per day. So he's completely abreast of what is happening with the payment rails change. So on that, am I buying it? No, it's just outside my parameters. If I were holding blue chip coins, I would be buying a lot of it. I would probably put most of my blue chip buys into XRP, probably Quant, some of the other ISO token related things related to the new payment rail system, because even though they're blue chips, they have that chance to go extra high for blue chips. All right, let's take a look next at one we never look at ever. Comey.
Yeah, what's a good way to buy OMI these days? Is it KuCoin or somewhere? Just out
So
of interest.
you can buy it from Stacker, and you can fund your Stacker wallet with like Coinbase. So that's one of the easiest ways to buy it. Second to that, you can buy it on Uniswap, or using the ETH chain or the base layer chain.
Right. Okay. So what we have here is, of course, high caution. We've said that quite a few times, but I just want to draw your attention to, if we zoom in on the chart here and look at what's been happening from, say, the April low, it is going sideways now in what was a very negative sentiment. And we did have the tariff situation, which would have hit any market that was weak. And it seems to have kind of held on in a short-term shock, risk-off environment. Now, that's not enough to get excited, but it's enough to say that there is potential what we call accumulation going on here. We did get one breakout here that got sold into. Must be a lot of people looking for short-term buys and any profits they're just going to grab. So that's, again, understandable. But it was working up this line here, and we started to talk about this line as being a support point, and then it went through it, and last week it went back over it again, and it went down again. So I've drawn this other line, which is it's obviously at a very shallow angle, and we wouldn't want it to go up at this rate. We want it to go up at a faster rate, but at the very least it is showing higher lows, like very small higher lows. So there are little chinks of light in the dark here. So for me, and it would just be for me, this would be another small nibble from another small nibble that we had before. Not enough to really matter either way, So if it went up a lot, it would just be, okay, that's nice, it's gone. But if it goes down, it'd be like, okay, it's not going to change anything. Because it could just be at the start of something that it starts to develop a bit more. Now, I would say, if I was going to be really cautious, I would wait for that next phase, which is when it is breaking through this resistance here, like trading up around here. That to me is when it's starting to move and become more interesting. And I want to see it take this out, 0.002998, to complete a base. But the way I like to look at it is as it moves into that, and if I could show you another chart that looks similar, which is completely unrelated. Let me see if I can find Is it this one? Let me see where it is. Could be this one. Actually, that's not bad. That's fairly similar, but it was more a commodity trade that is kind of looking like it wants to do something similar. I mean, we could, I guess we could talk about palladium, and I want to see it break this level, but it does nothing, and then it slowly starts to come up and break resistance. But this is the level I want it to take out, and this is why I've got this line across here, because that would make a huge base. So when it comes to OMI, it's got to do a bit more work, as this does, to create a base, but it looks like it's in the early stages of potentially basing. Now, where I parachute out is if it gets anywhere down here or if it breaks this line, I wouldn't feel confident because the lows are too close. But that's only an if, that's only if it does that. It's not done that. That's just how I parachute out, and then I'll jump back in. So a very small tentative buy for me, an exploratory buy, as I would call it, and we'll see if we're around. Well, I'm not going to be on the show next week because I'm traveling, but perhaps the week after, if we're trading through this level or we're trading through the low, we'll have to see which it'll be. And obviously, I'm hoping for the former rather than the latter.
So let's see. One of the places you can buy it is on Stacker's wallet. So I'm at Stacker, like STACKR.
Like Flickr.
Yeah, Stacker.world. And you're able to fund your wallet. You can pay with a credit card. You can transfer from an exchange. You can transfer for a wallet, receive funds. Once you have created a Stacker account, and then you can fund your wallet in any one of these ways, you can then just swap for OMI. You can swap from USDC or ETH to OMI. And that's an easy way. Another way is Coinbase's decentralized wallet. Allows you to swap for OMI. OMI's not listed on Coinbase itself directly yet. Hopefully in the coming future. So awesome different ways that you can buy it. Overall, I really like this. Market cap's sitting really low for, I think, the potential of this project. So it's at a $60 million market cap. And I think this is one that can easily go to a $10 billion market cap or higher in the coming bull run. So I like this one a lot. I've been stocking up some more at these low prices. Let's see. Like you said before, it's looking like a basing pattern most likely. And sometimes basing patterns can fool you, which is why Paul has his bailout area and what tells him, okay, the odds are reversing and that it's not basing anymore. And so the likelihood that it's going to go down farther, that's why he has his parachute out level. But for now, it does look like maybe it's basing, that maybe the bottom of OMI is in. There's definitely a bit of a momentum shift happening within the community behind it. So I think it's an amazing buy. I've been buying at these levels. I mean, I didn't ever think it would get this cheap. And oftentimes, projects in the bear market will get cheaper than you think they ever will. And so you won't have it bought the bottom usually, because you'll have deployed most of your capital before prices reach the extreme lows like they did here. And it's just a problem of not having a magic crystal ball. Because if you had a magic crystal ball, you would never miss the bottom. You'd buy exactly the bottom. All right. Definitely a buy for me. Let's take a look at another one we never talk about, except almost every week. And let's take a look at DEVVE.
Yeah, so DEVVE had hit this 45 cents area. The 49 was the support point that we were looking for the test of, and it hit 45 because that's that whole zone. You see, there's support 49, 45 was the resistance here, and actually that was where the breakout really started, around 43, 44. So a little bit of leeway on that. So it's bounced, which is the first good step, good good signal. You know, it's first step to a more significant trend, of course. The rate is not blistering. It's a fairly nice rebound, which is what we'd expect. But it's pressing this downward trend line, and that has been fairly consistent at capping all the rallies. So as you could probably predict, I want to see it actually break that and be above and trade in the sort of 58 to 60 cents area. Say, okay, this is it. You know, we're shaking off this downward trend and we're now moving into an upward trend. If I had to say what the probabilities were, my guess, and it would just be a guess, that it will do it and it will be higher into next week, because it's had a nice bounce and it is sort of still moving up in a very small upward trend, but I still need to see it actually happen. So I'm going to say it's a wait until it's got through that level, and then for me it'll be a buy once it's closed over that trend line.
Yes, DEVVE is one I like fundamentally. The price action on it is not giving us enough yet. So hold on. It's not giving us enough yet. Like, has it based? Is it turning around? Hard to tell. But I don't mind buying it when it's not clear that it's turned around, buying things when I think they're cheap. And what I'm seeing is this general decrease in the rate. So like, see this nice rounding bottom. So it may not be at the bottom. Maybe it goes down further, but it's somewhere near. And for my strategy, for the tokens that I like fundamentally, that's an okay buying strategy. I've done very well with that buying strategy. So it's at a good price. Is it the best price? Well, it might get cheaper and it might not. So a lot of what I do is I buy things when they're nicely cheap. And sometimes they do get cheaper on me, which is always disappointing, in that, like, you don't have a magic crystal ball to see exactly where the bottom is. So you end up buying too soon sometimes, and sometimes you end up buying and you're super glad that you bought, because then the price runs away on you. So when I see a price that's good enough, I still buy, and that's a great price for DEVVE, an amazing price. It was a good buy at $1 at 55 cents. It's an amazing buy. Might it get cheaper? It might. It did come all the way down here to like 45 cents, which is an incredible buy. I don't know if that will happen again. So I just have to take it as it shows me, and I have to evaluate, is this a good buy now? And I like it at this price too. I like it more at 45 cents, but it's not at 45 cents right now. And we may go back to that, and it may not. All right, let's take a look at some of the requests. So Rivian asked us to look at AURK and MCADE. I'm familiar with MCADE. I don't know AURK.
Okay, AURK. AURK AI, is that it? Yeah, this is the chart. If this is the correct one, we're seeing pretty much a range bound market. So this central point as to where it is, it's almost mirror imaged, this down, this up, and it's right in the center. So I can say very quickly, if this is the correct one, it's kind of neutral here. Broadly speaking, I would give the balance, because of the macro environment, perhaps to the upside, but I'd have to see a bit more of a breakout of this pattern. Should be some good support close by, you know, this support area, this resistance area here, translating across. Let me just change that to a horizontal line. So this across here should act as some support. I see that as the central point. Can't guarantee it won't go a bit lower, but it just seems to be playing around that. Where things have changed, where the dynamics have changed, I guess it will be through this 39.60 big resistance point, prior resistance, hit it there, big sell-off, which obviously would affect psychology, came back to the breakout point, which is here. So those 2 points have made that really key. So a big picture play would be a break of that, and it would also break the moving average, I would guess around the same time, because that's close to it there. But short term, it's unless this is one that you're watching every day and it suddenly starts to do something that's different to what we're seeing on this chart here, something that's outside of its normal trading characteristics, I think it's a wait for me.
All right. So I was just doing some further research on it, see what I think about it. It's not one that I'm familiar with. So AURK AI, its market cap under $1 million market cap. So looking down on CoinMarketCap gives us a little bit more information. AURK is a cutting-edge AI platform designed to simplify the process of building, deploying, and monetizing AI models for developers and businesses by leveraging an intuitive interface and seamless integration with Web3 technologies. AURK empowers users to create custom AI models, explore a diverse marketplace of AI templates, and deploy solutions efficiently. So one of the interesting things is this combination of AI and crypto. Now, one of the advantages of crypto is it's a marketplace that's fairly easy to raise money through selling a token. So it's more difficult to raise money other ways. So you're seeing a lot of these AI projects launch, and my guess is most of them fail, including, I think ultimately this one fails. Might it make money in the coming bull run? Probably, possibly. I don't know. I think a lot of AI projects are going to make some good money as far as their token going up in this bull run that will still ultimately fail. Does say developers and organizations can unlock the full potential of AI without the technical and financial barriers typically associated with its development. Okay. Cool. Like, what is the substance behind this? Hard to tell. What is the substance behind it? Through selling a token, they were able to raise some capital. It did go all the way up to almost 10 cents here, and it's now reversed down. So they launched just really early this year, and it took off to some momentum and this come down. In an AI run, this could run. Is this one that I would buy? Not unless I saw something in the team. There's tons of crypto AI projects that it's just really easy for people to launch some AI project that doesn't have much substance and raise some money in this environment. I think most of them ultimately fail, because what does crypto and AI have to do with each other? Just a little bit. I do think that certain AI agents and models, like, for example, will become, it's kind of scary to think about it, but imagine you have an AI run a business that offers some kind of solutions to the marketplace. And in order for people to hire that AI to do the solutions for it, they have to pay it in crypto. Some of these AI agents could become totally self-sustaining businesses. And crypto, it allows it a monetary way to, number one, receive value, but then to pay for whatever resources it needs to. And so you might see some businesses run by AIs that become self-sustaining in perpetuity, perhaps become some of the richest businesses in the world in the future. It's kind of scary and interesting to think about, because they're only going to become the richest if they're actually solving real problems, or they get really good at quantum computing and, hacking people's wallets just for fun and then stealing their money. But I do think AI and crypto has some linkage in that some of these AI agents, crypto is the perfect financial mechanism to pay them for the things that, the problems that they solve or the solutions they provide. But a lot of these smaller AI projects are just going to wither away. Now, maybe because timing is right, AURK AI does well in this coming bull run and then fails after. I don't know. All right, let's look at MCADE.
Yeah, so MCADE, similar situation, really. It's still in a range, but I think a bit more bullish than the previous chart because we've got a more obvious kind of rising trend from this area here, September 24th up. Of course, you could say that's balanced by the high here as well, and this downward trend. But this move here, I think, ended this downward trend, and we printed a higher low as well. So I think the balance of probabilities is moving more towards the upside, and it does look like it's trying to get higher. There is a lot of resistance 1-2, that this 1-2 before it went down, so it's trading close to that, and that's going to be a hard area for it to get through. It's a lot of wood to chop to get through that point. There would have been a lot of supply, so there's a little bit of a kind of triangular technical pattern here that could indicate it's going to go down, but you don't normally see that with such a big spike. And that spike down is more indicative of a trend ending signal. So the two things are kind of conflicting a little bit. And that's why I'm like not sort of going for the definite bullish signal rather than, saying it should continue this downward move. So for me, I think it shakes out into 60-40 to the upside. Could be persuaded to put a small position on, but I'd have to really wait to see the way it trades out this triangle. You can see the resistance line here, the support line there. It's very, very close to doing that. So I think the good news is that you're going to get some form of answer in the next week or so. And as I say, I think the balance probability is bullish. You see the moving average is moving up. That could be a good stop point for a short-term trade. So again, I could be persuaded with that. But overall, it is still working within a consolidation as opposed to trending price action. So I don't want to see the dynamics just look a little bit more bullish before I can get excited. So this goes on the kind of watch list, like keep an eye on it. We want to see over the day to day rather than week to week, because it could be ready to do it, ready to change. But I think it's going to shake out, I think, for me as a wait and see. And I'm sure we're going to come back to it at some point.
Cool. Now, MCADE is an interesting thing. So it's kind of in the blockchain gaming narrative, but it, like, number one, blockchain gaming has done nothing but get cheaper for the last while. And MCADE has run contrary to that because MCADE provides some gaming solutions for other crypto projects to drive engagement with their viewers. So, or with their community. So communities will come to MCADE and be like, we want to run a competition and we want them to play your game, and the top 5 accounts get whatever rewards. And so MCADE actually gets revenues for that. And it's a really interesting business model, which is why it can pump when nothing else is pumping. And I think a lot of this pump was driven by an awareness gap being bridged in that a few other content creators with following started covering it, and it drove it all the way up to over 4 cents. And that's just with a little extra awareness. Some of these low cap gems can really pump. Since it's settled back down, now I like buying cheap. And MCADE's market cap is 26 million. There are other blockchain gaming projects that I like for long term that their market caps are a lot lower than this because blockchain gaming has been so punished. So I like MCADE a lot. I do want MCADE cheaper than even this price. So for me, it's just a wait because I really like the team behind MCADE. I thought their strategy was completely unique within the blockchain gaming space. I like it. I just like cheap when people are forgetting about things. And I like buying really low, almost like everyone's running out of a burning building low. And it's not there, not at present. It was back here, but it's not there now. All right. And there are other projects that are there now. And so I'm just more interested in loading up on those presently, but it is in the range of what would be interesting for me for market cap as well. Okay, so let's take a look. What else we got? We have
Shekel.
SHEKEL. Now, we did look at SHEKEL just last week, Justin. We can take a quick look at it. I don't know that anything's really going to be, well, it was running away, if you remember. Wasn't its price doing interesting things? So I guess it's a good time to follow up.
Isn't that funny? I can't remember looking at it because it's you know, I did a quick search on TradingView and there isn't a whole lot on TradingView. So I switched over to CoinGecko, and
maybe it was on our Friday Rainmaker chat.
Yeah.
That I was taking a look at it with him. And
Okay.
like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think this is interesting. I think this is a really nice triangular constriction, and it looks like it wants to break out. So, you know, high risk, of course, because it's not been around for very long, and all the usual caveats and disclaimers, etc. But if this is going to go, it looks like it wants to pop. So it's pressing this level here, which is where it's very close to, which is 1.064 cents. It once, if and when it breaks that, it's only got this level here, 1.1, and then it's into clear skies, but it's pressing up. So I like the look of the chart. I can see why you want to look at this. If I was putting a speculative hat on, I would take the trade now, because the move could be sharp, but that doesn't mean that the other strategy of waiting is not a good one. I mean, it's just safer and probably a much better idea, to be honest, to wait for the breakout and because otherwise, you know, yeah, it could be stuck for another week or so before it moves. My bailout level, which always definitely has to be in something like this, would be below this line. So if it doesn't break out here, then I would accept to move back down to this line, and that would affect how much risk I'd want to take. And if it breaks that line, I'm just out. You know, I'm not going to mess around with something like this because, you know, what goes up fast can go down fast too. But yeah, definitely an interesting chart. And as I say, I'm pretty sure we didn't look at it, so it must have been on something else. But I like the triangular constriction.
All right, so it's a lot easier to find on CoinGecko than CoinMarketCap. So CoinGecko says it's Rabbi Shlomo by Virtuals is the bigger name of the project. Interesting price pattern, right? Break to the upside. Looks like it does want to break out to the upside further. And it says a $10 million market cap. Looking deeper, it is an AI investment fund launchpad, combining AI and DeFi, allowing users to launch permissionless, fully customizable investment funds that can be managed either by humans or fully managed by AI. Users can choose from one of the in-house AI fund managers or whitelist their favorite AI agent to manage their investment fund. This is interesting. You know, it's too early for me to be turning over any of my funds to some AI manager. I want to see great performance over time before I do that. But crypto is an interesting place for this type of AI, I don't know, to be experimented with and to see what comes together on how it's managed. Chart does look bullish. I'd give it 60% chance or higher that it breaks further to the upside. Am I buying it? I don't know. So essentially, it's a launchpad project. It's an interesting one. There's other launch pads that I like better that their price is absolutely punished right now. Curious. Good suggestion, though, Justin. Really interesting one. All right. So Rivian gives us an update from Pumpers Discord. The team is still actively working on optimizing the DApp experience to ensure everything runs smoothly. Thanks for checking in and sticking with us is probably what he heard back. Braulio asks, is it raining yet? No, not yet. Not yet. When everyone, not everyone you know, but almost everyone you know is talking, asking about crypto. The rains have come. It is raining yet. He does say, what's happening, crew? Exciting news all over the crypto space. There is starting to be exciting news really kind of bubbling up. So I think the blow off top probably happens later this year, but I think it's going to be this year. All right, let's see what else we got. Federico says, hello, gents. I saw one of your shows last week about Strike on Cardano. I did look, and it was very impressed. You put 10K in at 71 cents, and it crossed $1.39. Was going to take profits, but the dev update made me pause. It's a really impressive project. Not a bad take profit zone, especially if it's a short-term trade, because you're almost double your money. So you could pull out your initial and still have double riding. Let's take a look at what is it? Strike.
Yeah.
We had a hard time finding it. I think we found it.
Yeah.
The green logo found on CoinGecko.
Yeah. So I think we were looking at it possibly here last week, and it's just gone up. Well, this is a classic kind of, I mean, it's just a runaway trend, isn't it? It's so one can chase something like this. It's still not, you see, in technical analysis, you look for a sign that the trend is over and assume that the trend is going to continue. That does mean buying things that are on the run. But it also means you've got to manage it day to day, which is what I was saying last week. It's not one that I would buy and just sort of leave it for a couple of weeks. It's almost got to be managed intraday because the volatility is getting high. The breakout point, if we relate it to the shekel chart, this was the breakout point, was interesting around here. And so it did feel like I was chasing it at these levels, but I couldn't say sell because it's not given a signal that it's, one down day or one, down bar doesn't make a downtrend. It's just a pause in what is a very aggressive, a very aggressive move. So it stopped there, and then broke through again, and off the trend goes. A break into a new high, you'll always hear me say, when something breaks into an all-time high or a new high on the chart, I have to go with that. So yeah, the trend is still looking bullish and it is still moving up. Now, would I step in at this point from a neutral position? Possibly not, because it has, risk reward. I also have to think about a trade, which is, if I buy here, where do I put my stop? Well, realistically, the next support point is here. So buying at this level and then putting my stop somewhere down here, it's not completely unreasonable, but it's not as good as a very tight break of a high where I can get a much smaller risk against a potentially much bigger reward. So it's another way of saying it feels like I'm chasing it, but it hasn't given a signal that it has reversed. So if I was long, I might think about lightening up a little bit, but not getting out completely because I don't know where it's going to go. For all I know, it'll be at $2 next week. And I think this also, I always look at things technically, but I'd also be very intrigued as to what the fundamentals are saying as to why something like this is moving in this way. And I think some of that would have to be taken into account. If it was something simple like, a meme coin, then I'd be less bothered by something that could catch my eye, that really is genuinely interesting new technology that could have a great effect. So, it is still all in the chart, but that would sway me slightly. But for the moment, I think for me, I can I go long here? Not really. But, also I wouldn't go short either. So the trend is up.
Yeah, the trend is up on that. Let's see. Let me show the right chart. There we go. Definitely up. And the market cap's only at 22 million, so it could go further than this. What I've seen in the past, This reminds me a little bit of ADA, right? So ADA is one I started covering like 3.5 years ago. And during the bear market, it completely ran away, did incredible gains within the bear market. Now Strike is on the Cardano ecosystem, and it's offering options, forwards, and perpetual futures trading through DeFi, essentially, on the Cardano platform. So I think they're the first one offering this. And so within the greater Cardano environment, Strike is getting a lot of momentum, and people chase green candles. I wouldn't be surprised if it continues its run further. It's not a bad point to take out your initial, though, because then your risk goes to zero, because something like this can reverse really hard if something goes wrong, but it can also run up to 5x from here. So like you said, it wouldn't be one that I would want to have no exposure to. Is it a good place to buy in here? No, it's not. Is it a good place to exit everything from here? I still think there's probably further upside than this. So it isn't one that I would be exiting fully, though I'd probably be taking my initial out. And if my initial was way down here, I'd probably be taking my initial plus some profits out. Federico says the revenue sharing with the stakers is a nice feature. That is a feature that's probably drawing more interest. Will help the run continue longer. Bodega on Cardano has a similar chart to Strike as well. Only difference, Strike has 68% of its supply staked. Interesting. I guess Bodega, let's see if I can look up Bodega real quick. Oh, interesting. So they're at a $12 million market cap. They were at 11 cents. They're trading at 60 cents. Yeah. It's an open source prediction market protocol built on the Cardano blockchain. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, good insights, Federico. All right. Well, that's a lot of what I want to talk about. Paul, anything else on your mind?
Not really. Just, risk on. We're coming up to half year. And, yeah, I think the next half is going to be just as interesting, if not more so. So, let's see.
I think it's going to be wild. I think it's going to be far more interesting. So stay tuned now. So next week, we've got no show till the following week, right? Because you'll be traveling. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, Paul, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for the picks. Thanks for the comments, everyone. And see you soon. Thank you.
So the crypto market bottom is already in on most all the tokens out there. Good decisions made during these months leading up to the blow-off top will lead to life-changing ones when that blow-off top happens. I know a lot of you have been dollar cost averaging during the entire bear market. That's the way that I made life-changing wealth in 2021. And I myself redeployed my capital during this bear market. So I'm taking the same chance again. Now, if you haven't already, take the Zero to Crypto Hero course. Here's a brief commercial on what that is all about. It's specifically built for those that have less time. And this will give you an idea. If you were like most of us, we came into crypto for life-changing gains. But were you aware that 89% of people do rather poorly in crypto? Only 5% achieve massive gains. And it's because they're doing things differently than most in crypto do. If you want to learn what most successful people in crypto do different, my Zero to Crypto Hero course will show you 5 massive mistakes to avoid and 3 things you need to be doing right. All right, guys, it's been real. We're going to exit with our Rainmaker wrap, just reinforcing these principles in a fun way. We'll see y'all soon.
chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit bad before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be predators. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.